All right, welcome. I want to talk about this decline in NHL viewership over the past year. Um, I'm wearing a Carolina Hurricanes jersey. I'm wearing a Seattle Kraken hat. They're two markets I feel like that are still growing quite a bit, and two great hockey markets. Um, as negative news as this is, I think there's still a lot of positives and great hockey markets that are still growing at a pretty good clip too. Um, Carolina being one of them, they have been for years, and they're still it's just a great hockey market down there. Seattle still growing significantly over last year, and last year they got off to a really good start. Um, yeah, there are other markets as well. I also do want to apologize for the delay in this. Again, as I said previously, displaced from my apartment due to flooding. They had to replace all of the floors, all the carpets, all the whole ceiling. It was a project, but back at it. But because of that, I watched a lot of YouTube videos and did a lot of research on this. But I couldn't I couldn't find a better list than what Neil from Post to Post put together. It's essentially a list of just various comments and reasons as to why viewership can and potentially is down. Um, Highly recommend you go check out his page. Check out this video in particular. He's a great guy. Does a lot of great reviews. Does a lot of Jersey related content. Again, post to the number 2 post productions. I'll have the link to his YouTube profile page down below, and I'll have the link to the specific video with this specific list down below as well. Again, highly recommend you go check it out. I just just want to talk about it a little bit. So average viewership per NHL game last year 478,000. This year 373,000. Right, so almost a 500,000 to almost I don't know, less than that. It's a pretty big decline. That's 105,000 viewers per game not watching hockey per game. So that includes nationally broadcasted games. You get the Battle of Alberta on like Hockey Night in Canada on Sportsnet or whatever. That brings in several million viewers, whereas you can have like I don't know an Arizona Coyotes Blue Jackets game, and that's probably going to bring in like 70 to 80,000. So this is just the average, but let's talk about it. Blackouts. I think that's by far the biggest thing. That seems to be the dominant comment that everybody leaves on any related post to viewership or just NHL in general. There's always a comment about blackouts, regardless of what the article is about, and it definitely speaks volumes. Personally, I I wasn't able to watch any hockey for over 3 weeks. It was like 3 weeks in like a day or two. ESPN decided to black out all of my hockey games. I called 5 different times. I spent over 5 hours on the phone talking to 5 different people. It's easy because 1 hour per phone call per person, essentially, to finally figure it out. And I can see, even after like the second phone call and 2 hours in, it can discourage a lot of people from just watching hockey for the rest of the year. I was definitely considering alternative ways to watch hockey that would not be conducive to increasing these viewership numbers, but decreasing. So ESPN Plus, and like I kept calling, and none of these people were knowledgeable at all about hockey being on their platform. Some people didn't know hockey was on the platform. Some people thought that I could only watch local games on ESPN Plus, and I wasn't able to watch any other game. That's the opposite of what I'm supposed to be able to watch out of market games. There's a reason I have to have cable, but it's also ESPN Plus is there for not nationally broadcasted, for out of market games, and they do some exclusive broadcasted games on there, which is super annoying. So if I'm in the Washington D.C. market, the area. If I want to watch the Capitals, I have to have cable to get NBC Sports Washington to watch them. I have to get premium cable to get the NHL Network channel. Right, so I'm already paying quite a bit in cable. We're over $100 or about $100 in cable. I have to get the ESPN Plus app or just get an ESPN Plus subscription because there are nationally broadcasted games on only ESPN Plus or Hulu. That's the only way to watch them. I have to have Wi-Fi to be able to stream ESPN Plus, right? So you're talking about a minimum of 4 services just to be able to watch one team throughout a season, and that's 82 games. And then once it gets to the playoffs, everything's on the television. I don't know. It turns into this massive spending spree just to be able to watch hockey. It's kind of a headache, to be honest. Growing up, you could just turn on NESN the whole year. You'd just be able to watch NESN, and that was on basic cable. Even nationally broadcasted games, you could still watch it on NESN, New England Sports Network. Blackouts are definitely an issue. Sorry, my dog's just hearing stuff in the hall. Don't mind me. Next up is digital board ads. Yes, absolutely. I think they've done better at the beginning of the season. They had digital board ads, and the camera would pan, and the game would be streaming at 60 hertz, but the digital board ads would be streaming at 120 hertz. So the camera would pan, and everything would blur while the camera pans, except for the board ad. The camera follows the puck along the ice, and when it moves, if you just stop it, you don't even have to take a screenshot. You just pause whatever you're watching if you're on ESPN Plus, for example, or got the fancy cable that I don't have. You can see that everything will be blurry except for the board ad, and that gave me some severe headaches in the beginning of the season. I think ESPN Plus has done a nice job of adding that digitalized blur while the camera pans. I don't really get headaches anymore when I watch a game, but I don't know how it is with Sportsnet in Canada or I don't know anyone else or local broadcast. If they're doing a decent job on regular cable or if they're even doing that. I know NESN, it took a long time for them to even have digital board ads, which is fine. There's also the issue with players just disappearing into the boards. Recently, I've been noticing a lot of scrums along the boards, particularly like behind the goal for whatever reason. Players in white will disappear. Away jerseys will disappear. San Jose Sharks in their teal jerseys disappear. Bruins in their black jerseys disappear into the boards. And then you have no idea if you're looking at the puck or a skate or a stick. You have no idea what's going on the ice or what's happening on the scrum. And then they pan away and they do a replay from another angle. And you see some guy just getting punched in the face. I had no idea any of this was going on because all I could see was a digital board ad. A little annoying. Last little tangent on that is sometimes you'll see like a car or something race around the entire arena on the board ad while the play is going on. I think that it definitely takes your eyes off the puck for a second, and it takes a lot away from the physical game itself. Not a fan of the board ads. I think I'm fine with it overall. They just need to do a better job with it, and they need to not take away from the game so much. And the technology just needs to improve, and I think some of that will come with time. But they need to do a better job implementing it. Or setting standards, right? I don't want a whole bunch of stuff moving and distracting on the boards while there's play in progress. If you want to have a car go around the rink on the boards while, I don't know, they're reviewing a play or something, fine. But, I don't know. I think it takes a lot away from the game. I think there's still a lot of improvements, but it does add a lot of revenue to the NHL, which helps things like increasing the salary cap and so on. All right. Whew. Number 3, better interview questions. Personally, I don't really care. I don't care about interviews. I don't watch them. And if they're on, I'm not really listening. I'm kind of zoned out at the TV. Players come in between periods, get interviewed. They're tired, they're sweaty, they're out of breath. They're getting asked questions like, how I don't even know. They're just very basic, straightforward questions. And the answers are it's almost like scripted. Every player gives a very similar answer, we need to get more pucks on net and we need to work harder. Right? And that's fine. But it's very bland. So if you're into watching these interviews and stuff, then you want more in-depth questions. Personally, I could just do without them. I don't care to watch them. The only interviews I really watch is maybe a coach's interview after a game has ended, and it's probably a more controversial game or something controversial happened. Other than that, like, I'm not going out of my way to watch player and coach interviews. I don't really care. There's a lot going on in my hall, so I do apologize for the dog. Next up is better TV personalities. Again, I think this is more conducive to personal preference rather than just, I don't even know. I think in terms of TV personalities, there's a very diverse profile throughout the NHL when it comes to local broadcasts and even the nationally broadcast things. You get a guy like Paul Bissonnette who gives little to zero actual hockey analysis. He's there purely for the entertainment factor. And then you get a guy like Kevin Weeks who's super analytical on specific stats and stances of like goaltenders and stuff. He used to be a goaltender. There's definitely extremes, and I think you can kind of find what you're looking for. You can watch certain broadcasts, so I'm a big fan of Nesson. I watch Nesson and Jack Edwards, and come at me because I know. But with Jack Edwards, I can step away. I can go put something in the oven or take care of dishes or something while physically listening to the game and know exactly what's going on. His play-by-play is impeccable. He is so good. You know where the puck is. You know who has the puck. You know exactly what's going on. You know if there's like a hit thrown behind the play while not missing a beat. And that's personally what I value as a fan when I'm watching a game, is that play-by-play analysis. I want to be able to get up and change my laundry and not miss anything with the hockey game, right? Whereas some people look for more of an entertainment factor. And in that case, I would steer them more towards like a Washington Capitals broadcast. It's more entertainment and less analysis, which is fine, and that's what some people are looking for. But I think you can find what you're looking for. You just have to look for it, and that may not be the most pleasurable part. But I don't really know about TV personalities in general. There's some guys, like I really don't care to watch Paul Bissonnette at all on television. I just don't. I could do without him, but I feel like a lot of people can say that about various broadcasters and TV personalities anyway. And I think that's not conducive just to hockey, but just professional sports broadcasting in general. So I don't know how much legitimacy I want to take in this specific point. But I want to take more legitimacy in this point than the next point, because the next point is just homophobia. If you're not watching, a team you grew up with and a team you love because, I don't know, they're doing like LGBTQ plus warm-up jerseys for like 1 or 2 nights out of a whole year, or they're supporting, Black Lives Matter or the indigenous people of certain areas. Like, I don't know, that's crazy. Like, that's more of a personal issue. I personally don't have any issue with the NHL doing stuff like this, and even if you do, all this stuff typically happens during warm-ups. You don't have to turn the TV on to watch the warm-ups, and even when you do, you're not watching, like, they don't really show a whole lot of that. They might do like a little blip on like, oh, look at these cool uniforms, this is what they're for. And even if you're at the arena, there's plenty of things to do in a hockey arena that you can avoid watching the warm-ups if you really feel strongly about that. I don't know. And then you got the players, and like the players, like, you got the Provorov thing, not wanting to wear the LGBTQ plus jersey. And that's just where different cultures throughout the world can clash a bit. Russia, it's LGBTQ plus is for the most part condemned, as far as I'm aware. Please, if somebody is from Russia or whatever, throw a comment down there, correct me. But in general, it's not like something to be proud of. So we, and that's just a cultural difference. That's not necessarily like somebody may not have been exposed to the openness of that community until they left their home country, right? And you can't really fault a person for that. So, there's kind of a lot of stuff going on with that. But honestly, at the end of the day, if you're going to be like, I'm not watching the Flyers tonight because they wore indigenous people jerseys, it's like, all right, dude, like that's a you issue. That's not an NHL issue. Every professional sports league in North America is doing some type of promotion for LGBTQ plus or whatever it may be. That's more of a personal issue. So I don't really have much legitimacy in this, and I think the people that will turn off or not watch a hockey game because during warm-ups they wore a special type of jersey, like hockey fights cancer, right? Like, I think that's such a minuscule number. It's almost negligible, and like you don't really want that negativity in your league because then you get a reputation of being a league for like bigotry and so on, and you don't want that either. So I don't know, man. I don't think that's super legitimate, but you definitely see posts like that on social media posts by like the NHL or the Athletic or whatever it may be. There are definitely some questionable posts or comments that are posted on that by users, and it's a head shaker for sure. I don't know, man. That's definitely a personal problem. That's not a problem with the NHL. Those are my thoughts. Next up is schedule. Yes, the schedule's been crazy this year. Part of that's in due part with the new ESPN contract. There's only so many games. So, was it TNT has a certain night for the NHL? I don't keep track. I barely know what day it is today. But essentially, I think it's like Wednesday or Thursday, whatever. We'll just say Wednesday for the purpose of this talking point. Wednesday night rivalry night, I think it used to be NBC Sports. So if it's Wednesday night, you got TNT nationally broadcasting these games, again, for the purpose of this video. They're only I think they're not supposed to schedule more than 4 games per night. And if it's avoidable, they can schedule between 2 and 3 games. And as many games as possible need to be nationally broadcasted. And usually you'll see like 2 games being broadcasted in the U.S. by ESPN or TNT nationally broadcasted, and then 2 by Sportsnet in Canada. And they have another night too, which is Hockey Night in Canada, which makes the availability of scheduling days kind of tight. So you see a lot of days where there's only like 2 to 4 games, and then you see like 15 games the next night, and you see back-to-backs happening because of that. And it kind of makes a bit of a mess, but it's also tough to write an NHL schedule, right? You got teams sharing venues with other professional sports teams. You have different ownership groups, cities, counties, provinces, states, owning the venues, and then you have concerts, and they need like revenue, or you have like, I don't know, like you're inducting a new governor or mayor or whatever it may be, and you need an arena to do these ceremonies. There's a lot that goes into scheduling even a single game, not to mention 82 games for 32 teams, and balancing out a schedule. It's very tough to do. So I get it. I don't. It doesn't really bother me too much as a fan, to be honest. There are nights where I just want to watch hockey, and like I don't want to watch like Toronto and Montreal play because I just don't care. Like that's fair, but for the most part, it's fine. The one thing that I dislike though about the schedule, and this isn't applicable just to the NHL or this season, it's just like the late games. Like I'm on the East Coast, like I gotta get up and work 5 days a week in the morning. Like I don't have a flexible schedule for the most part. It's kind of flexible, but like I can't be staying up till like 1 a.m. to watch a Bruins San Jose Sharks game, or like an LA and Winnipeg Jets game, or Flames game, and I don't know, Ducks game. Like I can't be doing that every night. And then the team you watch will typically do like a West Coast road trip where there'll be like a week and a half of just games at 9 or 10 o'clock at night or later. So it makes watching hockey tough for that week or so. So that's just my little personal gripe with it. I'm not a big fan of that. I wish those games would start earlier. And I mean, whatever. If you want to have East Coast games start later, like I don't care how you want to balance that. I think there are solutions, but that's a whole nother video and tangent for a whole nother time. I could talk about that forever. Next up is Leah Hextall. I don't think she's that bad. She's definitely not great. I definitely don't care to listen to it. If there's another alternative to listening to Leah Hextall, I will listen to that alternative broadcast. There are things that are super cringy or just plain wrong that she says. For those of you that watched some random Islanders game last year, Cal Clutterbuck was not drafted by the New York Islanders and did not spend his whole career with the New York Islanders. He was drafted by I think the Minnesota Wild drafted him. Spent, I don't know, almost a decade or about a decade on the Minnesota Wild. Was kind of a face of the franchise, bit of an enforcer, 20-goal scorer, had a sweet mustache, was in a Menards commercial, was in like a MedStar commercial or some I don't know. I feel like it was like a mattress company. He was in some commercials and stuff, like kind of a big deal. So like Leah Hexall will say things like that. Definitely not a big fan, but she's been in hockey a long time. This isn't like an ESPN TNT thing that they're just pushing her out there. This has been a thing for years. I think she keeps improving. I think it's taken a long time for her to get to the point where it needs to be, she needs to do better, but that's not my place, right? That goes back to the TV personality thing. You can whatever, like there's TV personalities on all ends of the spectrum. And she's at one end of the spectrum. So that's that. Next up, sports betting ads. Yeah, they're frequent. Sports betting is getting legalized in most U.S. states. I don't know how it is in Canada. I have no info on Canada. If it's been illegal, if it's legal, I don't know what's going on. I don't know. But essentially, I live in Maryland, just north of D.C., right? And a couple months ago, online sports betting was legalized, rolled out so we could actually start betting online for sports. It's a lot of revenue. It's a lot of pushing for these companies, a lot of lobbying to get these laws changed. But they make a lot of money, right? They make a lot of money. But it's also tough because it's one of the recognized addictions. There are a lot of people that struggle with gambling and gambling issues. That can be a turnoff for a lot of people. To watch a hockey, really to watch a professional sports league that is primarily focused on sports betting advertisements, right? There's not a whole lot of diversity. There's a lot of I get a lot of DraftKings commercials, FanDuel commercials, and Burger King commercials. And especially on ESPN Plus, where they just replay the same 3 ads. That's really all I get. And 66% of my ads or more are sports betting ads. And then you see on the boards at the game, the digital ads. There's a lot. There's definitely there's a reason it's not legal in some U.S. states, and a reason it's still, it's taken some time to become legal in some U.S. states. It's because there's a real issue with addiction behind that. So that's definitely a turnoff for a lot of people. I can see that contributing quite a bit to this decline in ratings. Next up is playoff format. I think that hurts playoff viewership more than regular season, personally. Yeah, you get the 1 through 4 seeding in your division, right? So you'll see the Atlantic Division playing, the top 4 teams will essentially play each other, right? How many years in a row can I watch Tampa beat Toronto in the first round? Or Boston beat Toronto in the first round? It's the same storyline every year. It's not exciting. But it makes, the NHL's argument is it makes for better rivalries, and it's easier for the broadcasting companies to predict matchups and market those matchups, which it's fair. From a revenue standpoint, sure, but from a fan standpoint, I'd much rather see that 1 through 8 in the Eastern Conference and 1 through 8 in the Western Conference. The 1 through 16 they tried it decades ago, and it was a disaster. I don't think I'd be too much of a fan of that, but I do like the 1 through 8 format. It'd be cool to see I don't know, the Lightning have to play the Islanders in the first round. I think that would be pretty cool. And I think you can create some new matchups and rivalries there, especially because in the Eastern Conference, you're still playing the other division 3 games instead of 4 in your division. So I think there's something to be had there. But from a revenue standpoint, I don't see that changing anytime soon. But I think that definitely hurts the playoff viewership quite a bit. I'm a little turned off for the playoffs by watching the playoffs because of that too. Just being honest and transparent there. I didn't watch a lick of the Lightning Toronto series from last year. Probably not going to watch it again this year. It really just, I don't know, man. I've seen enough Toronto Lightning games in my lifetime, and recently where I'm good. Next up is no rivalries. This is just part of the NHL changing its culture over time. Years ago, you see fights, you see a lot of grittiness, you'd see some genuine hatred for the other team. you had that extra roster spot to fill it with an enforcer, so you could have a guy like Mike Rupp, or I guess you could say Sean Avery, John Scott, Sean Thornton, right? You have these guys. Was it Karkner? You have these guys that are there just to fight, which added something to the game. I think it added more emotion, in my opinion, to the game, and that's whole controversial thing is the fighting. The game is more skill-based. There's a lot less hitting in the game now. You see a big clean hit, and all of a sudden this player's like getting slashed and challenged to fights for throwing a clean hit. So, yeah, I think that definitely takes away from the rivalries quite a bit. So I think there's some legitimacy there. Like, I don't get excited to watch a Bruins-Canadiens game anymore. I don't care to watch a Flyers-Bruins game because they're on the opposite side of the standings, and I haven't seen like an exciting game from them in years, years, and that's pretty decently sized rivalry. Even Bruins and Rangers, you got the original six matchup there. It's a skill based game, and like there's not a whole lot of emotion, and I don't know. I get it, but I think that's just the nature of how the game has evolved over time. It just is what it is. Lacking storylines, I think it's kind of the same thing. You don't have like players throwing these crazy hits or challenging a guy to a fight the whole game. There's not, the storylines are kind of muddled. Again, it's more of a skill based thing. So a lot of skill based league. So a lot of the storylines are like, how many points will McDavid hit? How many goals will Austin Matthews have this year? How do we make the salary cap work? And I don't know, like I feel like you kind of have to be pretty invested in your team or the NHL to really follow these storylines and be able to follow them closely. And even then, I look at Cap Friendly every day and I look at stats every day, and even then, like, I don't know, it's not that engaging sometimes. So definitely some truth there, but I don't know. I don't really know how you increase that with the state of the league being more skill based. Next up is more buzz around talks of trades versus actual trades. There is a lot of trade hype in comparison to actual trades that happen, but that's been a thing for forever. As fans, we want to see big trades. We want to see like a superstar come to our team, or our team in some cases, our team actually commit to executing a rebuild. Looking at you, Vancouver Canucks. But I think it's tough with the flat cap era we've been in. But it's always been a thing. Next up is poor marketing of stars. Sure, I don't know. It's one of those things like I don't like see ads for Washington Capitals or really any sports team in Washington. The only sports I get on TV is a news story about how the Washington Commanders owner Dan Snyder is sexually harassing people, right? Like that's all I get. I don't know. You go to the stadium, or maybe you like go to the grocery store, and I got Ovechkin OVOs. Maybe you get Marchand's cereal or Pasternak's pasta, macaroni and cheese, or whatever it is. There's definitely opportunities, but like in general, like whatever, it's tough. Are you marketing Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews in these markets, or are you marketing the local star players? And it's something we've seen a lot of leagues struggle with over time. Yes, they could do a better job marketing star players. I'm not a marketing expert though, so I don't really know how you do that. But sure, that could be a legitimate point. I don't think that's specifically contributing to viewership being down this specific year. But sure. Next up is too many math equations. Yes. I'm an engineer. Like went to college for engineering, took all these math classes, got this certification. Like I love math. I love numbers. I love equations. I don't know. I'm literally reading a book on quantum wave theory right now. Like, I'm one of the biggest nerds you can get, and even I agree that like I don't really care about the analytical stats. I think they're they want to tell more of a story that's there. And hockey's one of those leagues where it's tough. Like, stats don't tell you the whole story. You actually have to watch the players. But I don't think analytical stats do a much better job of replacing that. It's one of those things. They have their place, and sure, you can look at things like goals saved above expected, and it takes like the shot percentage. But there's various factors that also aren't included in these equations, and then these equations keep getting longer, and then it's like, what are we really trying to look at here? So I've always been a stats purist. I like to look at the basic stats, and then you can kind of analyze those stats in and look at the players' trends in stats. I'm not a big fan of these analytics stats. They exist. I look at them. I'm intrigued by them, but to an extent, you got to take it with a grain of salt. You get the good players on good teams having good stats, and then you get the bad players on bad teams having bad analytical stats. Like, there's only so much of a story you can tell. So it's intriguing, but like, I mean, for me as a math nerd, like, I'm not into it. I don't care. I don't care to look at it all that often. I don't care. I do for the purposes of my obsession with hockey. But in general, like, I'm not going out of my way to look at WAR stats in baseball. Like, I don't care. I just don't care. Cucumber melon seltzer. Love some seltzer. All right, half hour in, a lot of talking. All right, that's my little break. Next one. Only two left. Officiating. I do agree with this quite a bit. It's there are some games where it's tough to watch because the whole game is played on special teams. Those to me are not exciting games. I want to see a team go at it with another team. I want to see 5-on-5 play. I want to see 5-on-5 goals. I don't want to see a team spend 25, 30 minutes on the penalty kill and another 25, 30 minutes on the power play. Like, that just shows you can play well with an extra man or without a man. I don't know, man. That's not I don't enjoy watching those types of hockey games. Excuse me. This year, more than previous years, and last year more than previous years, and it's been an increasing trend. We've seen a lot more minor penalties called that have led to power plays, special teams play. Like, I don't care to watch it. I think some of these calls, are questionable at times. Like, yeah, you could have called that, but you also could have not called that. Like, it was a borderline call, and we're seeing a lot of those borderline things get called more often than not now. So I want to see a skilled team play 5-on-5 hockey, a skilled 5-on-5 hockey game. Or if a team's more prone to the physical side of the game, it's almost like those teams are being punished a little more because special teams play isn't conducive to physical play either. So I think for me, that's personal preference. Is the amount of penalties being called is unnecessary, and a lot of these penalties being called are borderline that you could probably do without. So again, I think that's more opinion, but if you're of the mind, like the hockey guy, his channel, great channel, he disagrees with me, and that's perfectly okay. We just have different opinions on that. He thinks that if there's a penalty there, it should be called regardless of the playoffs, regardless what period it's in. If there's a penalty there, call it. It's like the rule's there for a reason. That's perfectly fine. I'm more of the mindset where, like, if it's questionable and teams are playing a little chippy, like, that's gonna happen regardless. Like, if a team throws a little slash on the legs of this player and then the other player slashes them back, do you really need to call a penalty there? Because both teams committed a penalty. Like, some refs will call the retaliatory penalty, or some refs will call both guys and they'll play a 4-on-4 hockey, and then that's always followed up more often than not with another penalty, so it's like a 4-on-3. That's not what I'm into, but that's, again, more personal preference. Let me know what you guys think about that. That's an interesting one. Last up is salary cap. Yeah, it's been kind of a mess with the whole COVID happening and the escrow. The players have to pay money back to the owners, and there's a whole lot going on with that. But the salary cap is set to increase this year from between $1 to $4 million. and we should see pretty substantial increases over the next few years as well. I think it's just one of those things with COVID, and it's a league that doesn't make as much revenue as like the MLB or NFL, professional football, or the Premier League, for example. There's not a whole lot of money there to spend in comparison to increase all these players' salaries. But revenue league-wide and net income league-wide is significantly up every year, which is good news to increasing the cap. We weren't expecting to see a cap increase this year more than $1 million, and we still might not, but there's a pretty good chance we will. So I don't know how much like salary cap plays into the quality of players on the ice, which means viewership would be down. But it's something of note, something interesting. Players aren't going out and spending, I don't know, $15 million to try to get Nathan McKinnon to come over in the offseason, get a star player to play for your team, right? So there's also that, but I don't know. Anyway, I appreciate you guys watching. Let me know what you guys think. This is an interesting list. Again, I'm going to leave all of Neil's information below. Go watch this video. It's 21 minutes long. It's a lot shorter than this. But I feel like he does a very good job conveying certain points across in a timely manner. Let me know what you guys think. That's it. Any of these points, let me know. All right. Appreciate you guys. Take care.